With the inundation of gratuitous dogma throughout cinema, it's refreshing to get an action movie or a movie where you just get to see a character's development or a character being the character. A main character being able to shine and accomplish his own goals or her own goals without the need of some cringy, pretentious, or ostentatious dialogue that only serves to bolster the ego of a side character of which the movie is not even about. Welcome in Sisu, the Finnish version of John Wick. And I've got to say, after I did my review for the last John Wick movie, which I absolutely enjoyed, I found that compared to the John Wick 4 movie, I enjoyed Sisu a whole lot better. I still feel as though the John Wick 1 movie was better in terms of substance, because if you're looking for a movie with absolute substance in terms of a deep storyline, Sisu is not it. But it doesn't need to be. It already comes out of the box as a wildly supernormal tale of a legend, who is basically the Finnish version of the Baba Yaga from John Wick. The setting takes place in Finland in 1944, where of course the antagonists are Nazis. And the tale is as simple as it can get. An old guy, a military vet, is out there minding his own business, trying to find gold. It's clear that he was married at some point or is married, as he totes a golden ring. He finds a vein of gold, and his dog, which looks to be a Bedlington Terrier, and his trusty horse, which looks to be a Finn horse, accompany him through his travels. You're rooting for this guy because you understand that he's just trying to make his life better. He left the war behind, and it's very evident that he's a military veteran given his donning of these military dog tags that he wears around his neck and the presence of some gnarly scars on his body. He finds gold and is at peace and total euphoria and victory amidst the sounds of planes approaching his cities and bombings taking place. The other thing to note is that he doesn't look very fazed by it at all. He's not scared, he's just literally minding his own business. Now imagine he finds the gold and then he and his Bedlington Terrier are traveling back with it along with their horse. So Nazis are along the road, one of them in the back of the truck having his way with captured Finnish girls. Old man here walks by them completely unfazed, and where these Nazi guys are always just killing people at random for no obvious reason other than they're not German, the cocky leader of the bunch decides to not have him killed. I swear his right-hand man has more sense than all of them combined, because at least he was willing to put a bullet through the guy. But the commander says he's going to his death anyway. Why not? Just leave him alone, because I'm a villain and I have to wait for things to happen. Like, that's one of the funny things about this movie, but it kind of doesn't take itself seriously to that degree because it's outlandish. That's part of what sells it, and it actually works. Very similar to Jason Statham's Transporter movies.
Hold on. Just came out of the dry cleaners.
Well, the subsequent Nazi group that he finds down the road do want to pick a fight with him, and they quickly find out that's not a good idea. They're also stupid villains, because they all stand around talking about how they're gonna kill him and how he should say his goodbyes, only to meet theirs seconds later. This old man is not to be trifled with, and along the movie, they realize that this man is not a normal man. He is immortal, and it is such a badass concept if you can overlook the absolute stupidity of the villains, claiming to a religious degree that he is certainly an immortal opposition and that's why they can't best him, when the only reasons why he was able to get one up on them is because they allowed it to get to that point. There were so many times when they could have killed him, and they chose not to. Their own stupidity is what immortalizes this person, which is why it's so hilarious. The concept of seeing these Nazis get blown to bits and beat up is what really seems to sell the story. Because if you're looking for something along the lines of the choreography that we saw gracing the screen with the John Wick movies, you won't find that here. There's a lot of shaky cam and various whiplash-inducing cuts whenever the fight scenes are going on. What's really fun are the widescreen shots of when the horse is running away from them opening fire with the tank. The cinematography is obviously very beautiful, but when it comes to the close-up fight scenes, you're not going to experience Tony Jaa or Chuck Norris's level of martial arts or fighting. However, it doesn't matter because it's not about that. It's about the Wile E. Coyote presentation of these Nazi soldiers versus this one-man army who they keep allowing to live. It's about determination and grit and why you shouldn't mess with people. And these people being so full of themselves that they never expect their biggest opposition to be from an old man. His tale is told later on about why he is to be feared. He is a living legend who is said to be immortal. And of course, because the commander thinks that they're losing the war, he decides to ignore orders to go back and to pursue this old Sisu dude who was annihilated by himself a bunch of his men. They do end up catching up to him later and hang him and wait for him to die while taking his gold. but also offering up a bit of respect for how much trouble he'd caused for them, only to find out later that he's not actually dead, because of course he's not. Realizing that he might actually be immortal after they saw him die from hanging, and now he's miraculously alive, and after them to get back his gold, they all are justifiably terrified. Their commander is like, let's get out of here, and the Finnish women are giddy when they realize that their captors are afraid, and basically tell them they have good reason to be afraid, because that man is not immortal, he just refuses to die. So I guess that makes him more badass. He helps free the women and arms all of them to take back their power and capture their aggressor. We get a girl power moment, which I'm not so against because they completely deserve it. These girls in the beginning are shown to be violated, and this is something that was happening constantly. So we owe it to them to see them get some sort of justice served. Only you don't actually see them killing him. That's one thing I was a little bit iffy about. Near the end of the movie, they just hog tie him on the tank, and they're all like, yeah, we got him, but you didn't kill him or torture him, which would have been fun. I would have been all for them using each of their rifles and shoving it up his ass in quick succession, taking turns, like Ring Around the Freaking Rosie, you know, a pocket full of assholes, something like that. I know, I'm maniacal. We know that this movie doesn't take itself seriously when this guy lives through a hanging, and when he's riding towards a plane and uses a pickaxe to hook himself onto the plane and use it to tear into the plane to get like, we know what kind of movie this is, and the trailer did not hide the fact. I never once felt as though I was led down the wrong path to believe this movie was something it wasn't. This movie was 100% what it advertised itself to be. I also really enjoyed and appreciated the fact that no dogs died in this. Even the German shepherds that were sicked on the guy, he put himself on fire, which was really interesting because I've never seen that happen before, where someone put themselves on fire to get away from a situation or to cause a dog to not attack them. None of the dogs had to die to make this a good movie. And even though our Bedlington Terrier came really close to dying, it did help that he didn't, because that would have just ruined the movie for me. They took inspiration from John Wick and they were like, we're gonna let you like our movie, but dogs don't have to die in it. And I don't even mind at the end that the main character was able to find his dog again. I even looked over and told my husband that, like, yeah, he's gonna find his dog just miraculously later on, because the dog is just gonna be, he's just gonna spawn the dog to his side later. And I was totally okay with it because the movie is so ridiculous. And I do love movies that start out like that as action movies, because there's no jumping the shark. You are the shark. The movie is already what it is. And so, if you want to do sequels or spin-offs, you don't ever have to worry about people looking at you as though you're weird, because now the sequels are just ridiculous, when the movie's always been ridiculous. It's part of the joy with watching this movie. I absolutely loved it. I love the ending when he comes in and everyone's looking at him because everyone just lets him do what he wants because he's such a legend. He's earned his stripes and he's earned his reputation. They know a big part of why certain Nazis are dead are because of him. He also killed a lot of Russian soldiers. So this guy, everyone knows who he is. He cashes in his gold after he gets it back after surviving a freaking plane crash that he should not have survived. I mean, the guy refuses to die. That's part of the ridiculousness of it. Like, okay, yeah, the hanging thing, that was a stretch. But now a freaking plane, a military plane, head first, collides into the earth and gets buried under it. And you, really? But I love it. It's kind of like One Punch Man. And there's certain movies that do that very well, where you're like, is he gonna be okay? No, he's gonna walk away from this, right? Of course he is. And part of the fun is watching him walk away with it. But on to why I enjoyed it so much, more than I enjoyed the John Wick 4 movie. Even though I did like the John Wick 4 movie, you can see my review on that, people thought I was a little too harsh because it's John Wick. But if you look at the earlier John Wick movies, there still were stakes in those movies. There was still some sort of substance in terms of an action movie, because there was always something different. Part 4 just felt like they rinse and reuse the same moves over and over again, and there were no stakes. Where John Wick would definitely be hurt and need some downtime to recover, falling from an impressive height. In the 4th one, he can fall from the freaking moon and he'll just get up in the next moment, being older than he was in the previous movies. Like, it was just ridiculous. It got way ridiculous than it already was. But even though this movie Sisu was way more ridiculous and outlandish from the get, I still felt for the character, because there were times where he got hurt. Even when he was using a body or something else as a shield away from high caliber bullets that should have ripped through him anyway, I was thinking to myself, oh, his legs are completely exposed. Oh well, it's a ridiculous movie anyway. But then they show in the next shot when he gets away, oh, we did get hit in his legs. Wow, this guy actually can get hurt. And the aspect of seeing him hurt and in pain and needing downtime and passing out and almost losing but refusing to stay down. That is what drives home my willingness to invest in this character. Knowing that he's not gonna die, but also seeing him go through all of these agonizing situations from freaking bullies. He already lost everything. This is not a story of a man who's trying to get revenge. This is the story of a man who has given up his whole life to protect his country and still ended up losing his family and just wants to be left the hell alone. And these assholes are coming up and trying to take the one thing that he has, that he earned, that he just wants to have, that just, he's doing it for himself. No one gave it to him. He had to go out there and get it to make himself comfortable, and then these idiots want to take it away from him. I think that everybody watching this movie, even in today's age, can understand the notion of you trying to just live your life and idiots walking on the same road you're walking on, you minding your business and not really caring about what they want to do or their beliefs, just walking past them and them stopping you because they feel as though they need to encroach their violence upon you or encroach into your space and force you to bend to their will. I'm sure there are a lot of things that people can relate to when it comes to that. And it's not just nowadays. I'm sure throughout time that was the case. But it's basically a case of the bully becoming the bully, that sounds so stupid, throughout this entire movie, and people realizing, yeah, maybe you should not mess with people because eventually you're gonna get the wrong one. And these Nazi people, they got the wrong one. So it was a definitely good time, this movie. I absolutely enjoyed it. I would rewatch this. I totally would rewatch this. It was a delightful and thrilling experience, and I was constantly curious about how the main character would escape each new predicament. Everything was different with how he handled different things. There were different situations that he was placed in to see how he would get out of them and how he would employ his badassery. And while some of the situations felt a bit forced and contrived, the underlying premise that he is immortal and he is obviously going to survive added to the enjoyment because they changed up all the situations. And it worked because this formed the core concept for the movie. So definitely would give Sisu a rewatch. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Altiori. You ask, we answer.